Hey guys, and welcome to Petrol Ped and welcome to this week's Midweek 180. Now, I didn't put one of these out last week because I gave you 3 films last week, but because of an embargo, I dropped my Dodice Cilindre Spider video on Tuesday evening, so I didn't think you'd want another video from me on Wednesday, so forgive me for not putting one of these out last week. But if you've not seen one of these before, this is my midweek update where I bring you my news, views, and information about upcoming reviews, all filmed in one take. Now then, housekeeping from the last midweek 180. Leader of the pack was Francois G. Well done, mate. Joined in the Magnificent 7 by Malcolm Brew, Paul Mead, Michael Kember, Stephen Spink, Jake Warren, and Gary Matthews. So whoever puts the first comment this week, you'll be made leader of the pack next week, and the first 7 comments will be in my Magnificent 7. Now, F1 testing has taken place, or at least the first session of it, and it was fascinating. It's always very difficult to really get a grip of what's happening, but I think whichever way, I think we're in for an amazing season because I think the cars are going to be very, very close. It's safe to say McLaren looks strong. You can never tell, but their car does look good, and I think it's likely that they're going to be starting as favourites, or certainly with a car that pretty much will start the season where they finished the last one. And I thought it was great to see the best time of the testing session was actually Carlos Sainz in a Williams. Now, he may well have been running that on fresh air, you don't know, but it did look like a pretty quick car, to be honest, so that's great to see Williams, and they've got a new title sponsor, so hopefully some more money coming into the team. They've got Carlos Sainz, and I think he'll want to prove a point, really, having left Ferrari to make way for Hamilton. It was great seeing Hamilton in red. And it's quite positive things coming from him. I think he feels quite positive in the car. I think they've still got some work to do. And then all the other guys, whether that's George Russell, Kimi Antonelli, the 2 McLaren boys look great. Max Verstappen, always strong. So I think we're in for an absolute banger of a season. So let's see. Anyway, new car news. I wanted to talk about Lotus because Lotus have announced the Emira Turbo SE. Now, a couple of things caught my attention for that. Firstly, finally they found a decent name for the 4-cylinder Emira because originally their plan was to call it the i4. So they've got the V6 with the Toyota engine in it. They were going to call it the i4. Then they were told off by BMW. They weren't allowed to call it the i4 because BMW have one of those. So nobody ever really knew what to call it. The AMG Emira, but now the Turbo SE, they have brought back a name from their historic past. Originally, the SE part of Turbo SE stood for special equipment, but it's still got the AMG 2-litre engine in it with an 8-speed DCT gearbox. Hopefully, they've sorted out the software bugs that made that gearbox so poor in the early versions of the AMG Emira. But it's got a lift in power, so it's now 400 horsepower, so that's 40 horsepower up from the standard 2-litre AMG unit, and a lift in torque as well, so it's got 50 Newton meters more at 480 Newton meters of torque, so a significant uplift in performance. And prices start from £89,500, so it's pretty punchy really for a Lotus Emira. You can still buy the V6 with 400 horsepower. I did see something on socials this week that said Lotus had announced they weren't going to make any manual V6s anymore. From what I can find out, that is simply not true. It's one of these untrue posts on the internet. But if any of you know any different, please let me know. But the Lotus press release that this was in said at the bottom that you could still order a manual V6 or an automatic V6. So that's very good. And then last bit of motor racing news that I thought was quite interesting was to see the Valkyrie competing in the World Endurance Cars for the first time in Qatar. It did okay. They had 2 cars running. The first car lost a door after 2 hours. Have a look on YouTube for that. I think it had come into the pits. One of the mechanics had lifted the passenger side door and not closed it properly, and it came open while the driver was driving around. And on the way back to the pits, trying to make it back to the pits to be able to shut the door, I think the driver pushed a bit too hard, drove a bit too fast, and the wind resistance literally ripped the door off, so it had to go in and have a door replaced. But the other car finished and did well. I am now looking forward to Le Mans. I will be at Le Mans this year, and I think it's just going to be super exciting to see the Valkyrie in the hypercar class. I think everyone's going to have their work cut out to beat Ferrari, but I think more cars in that class, the better, really, because it's brilliant racing. And it's nice, actually, because the Valkyrie is it is a road car that's been made into a racing car. I know it's road cars pushing it a little bit. It's road legal. I don't know whether you want to run one to the shops and back, but it was brilliant to see it racing anyway. And then this Friday at 6, I'm selling my Boxster. So I've got a lot of explaining to do. I've had mega feedback from my announcement last week that we picked up a new family car in the Porsche Macan GTS. We are over the moon with that car. We've had it a couple of weeks now. We've not done a really long journey in it, but it's a car that we absolutely love, and we're really, really pleased with it. But that was the first of some car movements in the garage, and the next big movement is to move my Boxster on. The finance agreement I have on that comes to an end in a couple of months' time, so I would have had to do something anyway, whether that was pay the finance off and keep the car, or move the car on and move into something else. And I'm really wanting to try and move into a 911. So in Friday's video, I'm going to talk to you about the process of selling the car. It will be up for sale. There will be a link in that video if anybody's interested. But then also, I'm going to deep dive a little bit into my options that I'm looking at for a possible 911. I just need to find a car, which is proving far more difficult than I thought it would do, actually. But yes, lots of really interesting cars I've driven in the last couple of weeks that I still haven't put the videos out. I've just literally handed back on Monday this week a Ferrari 296 GTS, which I had for a few days, and that was just an incredible bit of kit. What a car. Probably, I think, the fastest car I've ever driven, certainly fastest road car I've ever driven. I've still got my video on the Pura Sangue to put out. And I should have had a really cool press car delivered today, but it had a bit of an issue, so hopefully I'll get that delivered a bit later on this week. So lots of cool stuff. I've got 2 press cars arriving to review next week, so loads of cool things coming your way. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed that. If you did, give me a thumbs up. Comments below are always welcome. Let me know, who do you think is going to do well in F1 this year? Because I would love to know. I'm still going to be shouting on for the McLaren boys. But anyway, I'll see you on the next film. You take care, guys. Drive safe.